Welcome, Echoes. Thank you for choosing Echoes of a Broken Community Pod. You are the voices, the truths, the community that continues to hold the stories. I'm your host, Tanya J. Lobo, and this is episode 4. In this episode, we're going to take a little detour from part 2 of our friendship pod. That pod will come out next week, and we're going to talk a little bit this week about politics. I know, cringe. There's just so much going on, and this episode, I know, might rattle some folks, and honestly, it should, in my opinion, especially with this month being Mental Health Awareness Month. What I've seen and what I've been feeling and what I've been hearing in our community, and not only our community, but community after community, has been that our mental health is just deteriorating. And we all know that mental health is not just like go to therapy and fix it, right? There's a lot that goes with it, and what our community is feeling at this moment is a lot of weight on our shoulders. We know that mental health also has to do with rest, and it's really difficult to rest at this moment. It's really difficult to be in this, I don't know, this just gravitational pull towards fighting all day, every day, and just fighting for our lives. There's just something about it that is bothering me. Last week, I couldn't do anything past Wednesday. I was down for the count. I was sick. And then I realized, like, I'm not sick, sick, like ill sick. There are ailments that my body does have, but at the same time, I know that they are being driven by stress. They are being driven by every single day waking up feeling like I'm not doing enough. There's so much going on around us, and things are heavy right now. Like a friend of mine loves to say, like life is lifing. So we know that therapy is not the only thing that can help our mental health. One of the things I want to do is think through how we can talk about mental health and how it correlates to politics or vice versa. When folks are waking up every single day unsure if their rights are safe, I know that right now this is personal for me. It may not be for you, it may not be what the consensus is in your community. I just am going by what I'm going through, what I'm feeling, and what is happening in my community. But waking up every single day feeling as though we don't know what's going to happen from one minute to the next, as I stated, rights completely being taken away every single day. When communities are scared to go to the doctor to speak their native language in public, kids are anxious, not only in classrooms, but at home. I know right now in my own home, we're super anxious. Our kids are going off to college in a couple of months. They graduate in about 2 weeks. And there's been a big shift in our home as to where our children will go to school. How will we meet the moment, being that we have two Black boys that are leaving our home to go to college? They're anxious in classrooms because a book or pronoun might get them targeted. We know that this is not just political, this is psychological warfare. And how are we supposed to heal when the very systems that harm us are still in power? Why are Black and Brown communities being targeted? Why are Black and Brown communities so on edge right now? Is the question being asked. Well, first off, if you're asking me directly, just know that there's so much nuance in this answer that I can't answer it alone. I'm not a monolith. You're not a monolith to your community, to the Black and Brown community, to the women that I also represent, or to even to my generation, right? I can't speak for everyone. I can just speak for myself. And I would say there isn't just one answer. Everybody's case is different because we've seen this before, is what I would normally answer. and history repeats itself. Our ancestors fought so hard to make sure that we have the freedoms that we have, and we're just seeing them being decimated every single day. And what is occurring and what's happening right now, all the rollbacks, the fear mongering, people who don't look like us is wild. I just have so many questions and so many thoughts, and this is a conversation that takes up every single moment of the day sometimes. I find myself at meetings, um, whenever I text a friend, whenever I just email someone for anything, the conversation every single time leads to it. This is something that others are also like, oh, I'm so exhausted, or this happened, or did you see the next, the last executive order, etc. And it, where do we go from here? What are we doing? How are we coming together as a community and actually standing with each other versus dividing ourselves, which is what I see happening more and more every single day. So we've lived through broken systems, and we know that the systems that are in place are not the best. I don't know what kind of systems we're going to be putting in place now, but there definitely needs to be an overhaul, um, of whatever is being worked on at the moment. I can tell you that much I know. We've learned the hard way that policy looks good on paper, but it means absolutely nothing, if the policy isn't entrenched in the people's voices and what they want, the majority. And that is back to my original statement. Part of one of my questions is, what do the people want? I feel like there's such a divide and such a disconnect, and the voices are strong on both sides, and it's a little overwhelming because in one way, people are saying this is exactly what they voted for. They knew exactly what was coming, and they're okay with it. And then you have like a smaller population, right, who did vote, um, for this administration and are now saying, wait a minute, this is not what we voted for. We're a little bit confused. Is it possible to get back on track? And then you have others who are the complete dissenting voices who are saying, this is exactly what we voted against. And we knew this was coming and we were trying to tell you. And then, the back and forth and the push and pull. Meanwhile, folks who've never felt the weight of this country on their back seem completely desensitized, is my take. Um, I get so infuriated when I hear, well, this doesn't affect me, or we should have buckled down and see where this ride takes us. First of all, where is this ride taking us? Like, do I want to jump in? Do I want to, excuse me, stop this ride? I want to get out. Will it work out for all of us? I really don't. I don't see that. Who is it working for, like in this current moment? Because, and maybe I'm in an echo chamber, but I don't really, I have not heard, besides like one or two people, and I've been talking to a lot of people, that are actually okay with what is going on. And the worst one out of all is, be patient. Be patient. Like, sound the alarm. Like, what are we doing? This is costing us lives, first of all, which is the worst part, right? It's costing us our lives. It's costing us peace, which is part of the mental health aspect. How do we live under these conditions on a daily basis and not have it affect our mental health? This is costing us our well-being. Uh, so I would love to hear from you and find out, what is it costing you? How is this affecting you? How is this affecting your home? How is this affecting your everyday life? How is it affecting your job? Um, did you vote for this? I would love to talk to you if you voted. I would love to hear. And this would not be a gimme gotcha, like, This would be an absolute, I'm going to stay quiet and listen because I would love to know why you voted for this. I would love to have a conversation with someone who is in the middle right now, who feels like we needed some of this, but I also don't agree with a lot of it, right? I would love to have that conversation as well. And I would love someone who knows me, who is not on the same side as I am. And if you don't know, I am on the side of humanity. This is not a left or right thing. This is a right or wrong thing. And I know that we've been hearing that a lot, but it's just because it's a fact. This is about right or wrong. When it comes to people's lives, when it comes to people's human rights and basic human needs, this is not, this, we should not be playing with this. So, did you vote for this? Did you vote for more silence or for our voices to be silenced? Did you vote for our freedom of speech to be taken away? And this also goes to whose freedom of speech is being taken away. Because if you're speaking the right things, if you're speaking things that um, are not uh, disrespectful to our administration, um, whatever, is your voice being silenced, or is it just those who have a dissenting voice at this moment? Are you fearful as I'm fearful? Are you looking into moving? Why are we even looking into moving? Why is that even a thing? This is our home. Are you traveling? Uh, I'm not. I'm honest, like scared. I don't know. Are we making too much of this? Is this really not that big of a deal? Like I have all these questions and thoughts, and some days I'm just like, oh, we'll be fine. We'll figure this out. We always have. And then other days it's like, but we've never been here before, and this just gets wild sometimes, and I'm just so drained, and it's taking up every minute of every day trying to stay in the know. And then I'm like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. But then when I try to get back on track, it's like so much that you've missed. And so how can we not stay involved, stay in the know, stay focused? Because we need to know what's going to be coming, right? So it's just weird. This whole time is weird. I know a lot of people went to the polls hoping for protection, hoping for better. And a lot of people stayed home. That's the mind blowing for me if you stayed home. And I'm not angry anymore about that. I'm more so curious as to why. Why didn't you vote if you didn't vote? And here's another thing. Let's go to party dividing lines now. So we have, Republicans and Democrats, obviously independents, but what do you do when your party gets it wrong? I feel like both sides are wrong right now in so many ways. And we've had these conversations with each other. Sure you've had them as well. You hear them everywhere right now. Again, I would be remiss not to talk about this, being that this is the number one topic, especially during, Mental Health Awareness Month. There's no way that I could not bring this topic up. But and I was asked to several times, and I knew it was coming. But when your party gets it wrong, do you double down out of loyalty? Do you say, wait a minute, this isn't what we signed up for? I do not agree. Do you call out your own? Do you call them out publicly? Do you call them in? Like we've had that conversation about calling people in versus calling people out. We're no better than the ones we criticize at this moment, in my opinion, if we do call them out. But I just, want to hear from you. And this ain't about being like, again, a Democrat or Republican. It really is just about the fact that right now there's a really defining moment in our history. We are in our documentary moment, as Jane Fonda said the other day. And there are dividing lines. So as much as I don't want it to be about, I should say, um, Democrats or Republicans, right now really is, and it's seeping into our local election. I know that initially when I got involved locally, it was very heavily like we're nonpartisan. Things have become quite partisan. And even though they might not say it, and even though some of them still might say like this is nonpartisan, we are very partisan. And people have drawn lines in our community as well. And it's one of the first questions people ask you, quite honestly, if you do uh, pull papers to run for office. They ask you, are you a Republican or a Democrat? And you have some, like I said, who state this is a nonpartisan race, but they just won't vote for you because they need to know. They want to know. When you go knocking on doors, they want to know. People want to know. And so we have definitely moved away from that. And I know that initially it was like, oh, we don't say things like that. You know, that's not how we do it. But we're moving away from um, that's how we've always done it. So what does that look like for us now? Um, and do we call our party out? I know I'm like my kid says, I'm hecking mad right now about so many things that my party is not doing, and the things that they are that make absolutely no sense. And when you have executive order after executive order, and I know that the executive orders are not law, I know all about how that process works. Um, but we're just currently witnessing all across our nation so many protections being taken away, and it just feels more so like control. Um, they just want control over everything. And I don't know, this administration is just chipping away at all of our freedoms. I always say one signature at a time, we get smaller and smaller. And under the guise of order and safety, and how does order and safety restrict what I'm able to say about you and how I move about this country? It's a big question around education, bodily autonomy, and it's targeting. Let's just be honest. Like let's just. It's targeting Black and brown communities in the worst ways. And I hate that El Salvador is where we are going because they should definitely not be involved in this at all, knowing that it's our own people. That's a story for another day. But it's targeting the very communities who work for us, who fought hard for us. And these aren't policies, they're just tools of suppression. Let me just say that. And I'm beyond angry. I think that there it's we're I think we're all just beyond disappointed. I'm sad. There's a sense of fear, more so terrified at times. Now you have all this talk about the ports are empty and the shelves are going to be empty soon, and we're not going to have any food. And I'm like, how we can't have food? I got three boys. I better have some food. Um, you know, it's just really weird. And I feel like there's so much distraction, and we have to try to figure out what is real, what is a distraction, and where we're supposed to be. And there's just all this messaging around unity, which is fake unity. It's not real unity because and if we're gonna unify, then it has to be all of us. It can't just be a segment of the population that unifies. And this talk about not having conversations about this because, this is what we voted for and stop talking about it, just go about and live your lives. Are are you kidding me? Anyway, they're just trampling over our rights, and the federal overreach disguised as leadership is certainly bothering the heck out of me. We need to wake up. I mean, there's no other way to put it. We just need to wake up. We need to find ourselves. We need to not be quiet. This country is one that we've all had a hand in building, and we need to save it. Because even if we feel like we're tired, how much more tired will our children be if we don't jump into this fight right now? Because they will be jumping our generation and going back to the generation before us and the generation before them to put together all of these policies again if they want to see some semblance of freedom and would be blaming us because what are we doing? I mean, there's a lot of marching, but those sticks and signs aren't doing anything. We need some action behind it. We need some people that on our at the local level who actually care, who actually give a damn. Our communities, especially our immigrant communities, know all about the weight that this is having on our mental health. And that's why we're scared, bottom line. That's why there's whispers on ways to get out of this because we can't trust everyone. That's why even when the paper says that, we're safe because we have our citizenship, um, immigrants still don't feel safe because even with their papers, they are still being deported. Clearly now we know that, U.S. citizens can now be deported as well. So are we safe? Do you feel safe? Like, does this not bother you? I feel like I'm a regular Joe Schmo. I go to work, come home, chill in my community, do the things I need to do. There's a different type of fear. This isn't like my community issue at the moment in the sense of I don't fear the police in my community. But what I do fear is that nationally, when you have these executive orders and laws that are quickly being put into place, and the reason why I say executive orders, even though we know that they're not law, is because the administration currently is not complying with any ruling that is occurring unless they're in, ruling in their favor. So we know that. So back to what I was saying is there's a different type of fear when I'm driving now. It's not, is this car going to hit me? Am I going to be stopped? Um, what do I do in that case? So I feel like I'm everywhere, but there's just so much to talk about. And I really want to be vulnerable and thoughtful in this space because I know that this is a very, very delicate topic, you know, sensitive to a lot of people. But I just feel like the main reason people are worried is they're terrified is because how do you sit there and just start planning to flee from a place where you've just always called home? I mean, that in itself wasn't part of like our 5 year plan, you know what I mean? And we're asking people to trust systems that were never built for them and then get shocked when they flinch. You vote for someone, they get elected, and let's be real, once they get into that seat, the power is theirs, not yours. You don't get a refund. You don't get to say, I take my vote back. If they switch up, it is what it is. They switch up. And, most times when they do get elected and they do get in there, if they're first time elected, the problem is then getting them out because then they stay for 20, 30 years. That's annoying in itself, especially locally. Like, my God, what are we doing? Um, but most people are just deciding to not vote. We had 90 million people not vote nationally. What does that look like locally, though? I mean, we always have a low turnout where I'm from, but what does that look like now with everything happening? I'm kind of excited for this election that we have coming up right now. There's so many people who've pulled papers, and it goes back and forth. It's top heavy when you're on under, let's say, council, and then short on school committee. Everything matters, but I'm curious to find out, like, is this going to kind of be like a version of 2020 where the local election is very heated? Um, are we going to be engaged this time, or are we just going to do all this performative stuff and then nobody come out to vote? I don't know. I'm definitely going to try to make sure that doesn't happen. I do have a lot of things in the works, but uh, back on topic, you don't get to hit undo if they fold. And local officials, decide what gets enforced based off of the fact that we know that we're being told that if cities and states are not doing what is being asked of them by the administration, funding is being cut. So what gets enforced is due to the people that we have at our local level. Do we know that? Or does our community know that? Do we understand that? Are we coming out to actually get some, you know, representation locally? Because they get to decide how quickly or how quietly something moves, and yet too many of us are still voting based on who we like. Ooh, like, let me get into this because this one is real. So, oh, he's nice. Um, she's helped me out once. I went to school with them. I am here to say this with all the love in my spirit, and I hope that you are receiving all of this love. Nice don't pay your bills. Nice don't fight for your rights. Nice doesn't keep your kids safe. If they can't give you a straight answer, that is your answer. And I'm not just out here talking, right? Like I'm organizing, I'm working with the state party, trying to figure out what is our next move, trying to build political infrastructure, trying to host town halls, not press events, like real town halls, real community conversations, partnering with other organizations who are doing this work to find out how we can build infrastructure locally. How do we get candidates trained? How do we how do we get them after being trained elected? Uh, Building networks. So we're not reacting every single political season, every single election. We need to stop reacting and being more proactive. But it starts with us. It starts with voting people in who actually have real policy, who are not beholden to others, especially locally. There's so much of this, and it just drives me insane. It's just such a cringe moment. Like, why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep voting people in who, just because we knew them or just because they happen to be our neighbor, and not even like, oh, they're my neighbor and I know them and they're a great person and they actually will fight for the people, just like know them when they're not on, when they're not doing the photo op. Are they actually in our community? Are they just taking a photo op? Are they in our community even after the election is over? Because we love to talk about the people that are doing the work, and there's so much work to be done on so many different levels, not just politically. I'm talking about food pantries, making sure that we have health there, you know animal shelter, working with kids, working with youth, working with families. There's just across the board so much that we need to do. Are these people doing this? Are they showing up for that? You're steady screaming their praises because they're nice to you and they helped you walk across the street. And I'm so happy that we still have humanitarians who will do that. But do they belong in office? Do they know what they're doing? Do they know what they're talking about? Uh, it just blows my mind how we vote. Like I literally had somebody say to me before, like, and it was for me as a candidate, and I appreciate the vote, but yeah, I saw you at so and so's event. Yeah, yeah, I'll vote for you, no problem. Thanks for the vote, but do you even know what I stand for? Does it matter? That's like a very valid question that we should be asking ourselves and pushing back on the people that say they want to work in our community. They want to be an elected official in our community. What are you going to do for me? How am I going to be able to live comfortably? And maybe not like what you may think is comfortable, but basic rights like roof over my head, lights on, feed my family. That's important. And we need to create these spaces where we're having these conversations. What is our agenda as a community? Like I'm really looking forward toward having these conversations in town halls because I really would like to know, like, What does our community even want? Do we know what we want? If we were to be asked right now by a politician, okay, I'm here, I'm ready to listen. What are the demands? What are the demands? Do we know that? Are you ready to lead day one? That's a question we should be asking as well. And we need to build that. We need to build that infrastructure. Um, or we'll always be at the mercy of folks that are getting elected. And by the way, get involved or vote because you may not like politics. And I love that Joy Reid said this, like, you may not be interested in politics, politics is interested in you because everything that happens affects you. And if you don't get that by now, like, I can understand a couple of years back when we were all kind of in this bubble. But if you don't see that now, then I don't know what you're seeing. Who's being left behind? That's another question we need to ask ourselves. You know, this is about collective protection, about community care, about political clarity. When we see injustice, no matter who's doing it, we speak up. Always, period. No questions asked. We organize. We say this ends with us. That's what needs to happen at this moment. What are we teaching our kids? I got a chance to speak with some kids this week, and my God, were they amazing. Like the questions that they were asking, the the conversation around how do I even talk to my own parent or caregiver who just doesn't want to be involved. And I could see the apathy. I could see why. They're stressed and they're trying to make sure that they're making ends meet. Um, but the conversation was so deep and it was so good. And they were talking about leaders and role models. And are we as leaders like leading accordingly? What are we doing with that? How are we showing up for our youth and also letting them lead? I frequent, and everybody knows this because if you've talked to me lately, you've heard me say, like, if you're not watching Native Land Pod, ugh, you need to get moving ASAP. And there are times where I disagree with some of the things that some of them say sometimes, but it's just such a very good podcast, and it's Grits and Eggs podcast, superb as well. But Native Land Pod is more up my alley in the sense that it's always culture and community and politics right now, and that's where my head is at because I'm sure, like you, that's where all of our heads are at right now. But it's important to me that we're pulling in the youth voice as well. They did an episode, and I, like I said, was really happy to be able to kind of take snippets from the episode um, that they had with Gen Z and bring it to a group of Gen Zers and have that conversation locally. And I mean, they really went in on when I asked the question, do you even know who these people are? And they don't because they're not the people on their feed, right? It kind of goes by algorithm. And what does our feed us, right? That it's the name means something, but what is it feeding us? And so I asked them, who's on your feed right now? Ooh, all of the celebrities and this and that. And so my question to them was, what have they done for you lately? Same thing I ask my kids when you want the new Jordans or this or that or the other. What have they done for you lately that we're going to spend our hard-earned money that we work so hard for on these concert tickets for $500, on sneakers for $300 to $400? When right now you need a car, you need this, you need that, you can save up for college. What are we spending our money on? Anyway, back to the youth. We need to lead them, but we need to lead them and guide them. I keep hitting this mic. We need to lead them and guide them in such a way where we're handing off the baton. One of the things that infuriates me is when I'm having conversations with other leaders who have been leading for quite some time and are in their um, late 60s, 70s, and they are still trying to hold on. And I'm trying to express to them that this is not us saying, here's the boot, right? This is us saying, teach me. Let me sit with you at a meeting. Take me under your wing and don't cherry pick, right? Do this with all the individuals who are saying, we want to learn. We want to be the next generation of leaders in this community. And we don't have that. We have people who are holding on to power, doing the same thing we've always done, and we know that it's not working. It's not working. We see that it's not working. But because of that title, because of that name recognition, we have people who continue to put them in that power, and they also want to hold on to that power. We need to stop. We just need to stop. We need different voices. We need voices who can think outside of the box. There comes a point where even I will say, you know what? It's your turn. I'm not doing this forever. This is just a stepping stone to the next thing for me. I don't plan to be around for the next 30 years doing this. I want to enjoy my life, but it never changes your heart. And I know that if we start to work with our young people, we can create amazing leaders. And I think that that's where we need to go at this time. So I'm saying stop voting for people just because you know them. Start voting for people you know will do a good job. Let's back up. They'll do a good job. They'll make their mistakes. You'll get angry at them sometimes. Speak your opinion. Let your voice be heard. But know that you're putting somebody in office who's going to go and fight for you, for your neighbor, for the immigrant who lives a couple houses down that you do not want to get deported just because you know their family, you know they work hard, you know they have kids. Vote for the person that's going to come back into the community and actually give back to the community with their time and expertise. It's important. It's important. It's not about loyalty, and we need to remove that from the way that we vote. It's not about loyalty. It's not about kissing rings. It's about the liberation of us all to keep that freedom. So make it count. Your vote matters. And we see that now more than ever. For too many of us, it's life or death. So when election season is over, as it is technically right now, believe it or not, we're only 100 and some odd days in. What are you doing? Don't disappear. Stay engaged, organize, build, protect each other, love on each other, find your community. We all need to find each other. All these petty beefs and all this stuff. We don't even know half the time why we're not talking to each other, why we're not working together. It just doesn't make sense. And you've heard me say this over and over again, but it blows my mind the stupidity behind, oh, why don't you talk to so and so? Because we didn't work together well one time. I don't work together well sometimes with my husband, but here we are, 20 years in. Like, what are we doing? What do you mean? It doesn't make sense when you know that somebody's coming, you know, with a knife to stab me. Are you just going to be like, well, I don't work with you and let that person stab me? Are you going to push me out the way? And like tragedies happen, and we're just so apathetic and desensitized. And stop, breathe, sit still, get out of yourself and your feelings, and help each other. People are so fake. I'm just so over it. I'm so over all of this. I'm ranting again, but we're doing too much. Like, we're doing too much. We need to figure this out, y'all. It really bothers me, and I hope it's bothering you. And I'm going to talk more about this as I'm sitting here thinking about it. As you see me like drifting away, I'm going to talk more about this. It's affecting my mental health. I literally have to be like, please do not tell me one more thing, to my husband, to my mom. When your kids are starting to talk to you about politics, your kids know that there's something wrong, because these kids shouldn't be knowing what's going on in politics. I mean, they should know, but you know what I mean. They usually don't want to know. They're like, what? Who? But if they could tell you and go down the list on who's the Secretary of Defense and who's the Speaker of the House and all this other stuff, like, yeah, great that they should know in passing, but and they know everything that they're doing and all the things that they said. And I didn't know when I was their age. I mean, I knew the basics. I was involved in my own way. I was involved in the Gay Straight Alliance in high school, and I knew from then, like, I knew which side I was on. I knew who I was fighting for. I knew I was fighting for just human rights in general. I didn't really know the politics behind it. I didn't really even think it had anything to do with politics, quite honestly, until I started to realize that, oh, policy and all the things that come with it. But you know what I mean? These kids should be enjoying the fact that they're kids. They should be hanging out. Instead, we are creating overstimulated, and I would say some desensitized youth who just are strongly creating narratives around this that we should be helping to formulate. I don't know. We'll keep talking because that's what we do. This is Echoes of a Broken Community where we tell the truth even when shakes things up. Um, and I just want to say, enjoy these moments. I've been taking the time to enjoy small moments. My shoulders are like burning and red right now. I don't know if it translates on camera. I just sat outside for hours yesterday talking to my kids, talking to my mom, hanging out on the porch. And it was nice. It was nice. Fell asleep on Wednesday. No, was it when? No, it was Thursday. Thursday. I fell asleep on Thursday on my porch. I literally just staring at a tree. Everything is so heavy. Take some time for yourself, for your family, for your kids. If you don't have kids, go hang out with some. They make you laugh. They're just amazing. Anyways, as always, have grace for yourself, for those around you. And you don't have to repeat what you've lived through, but you do have to intentionally live differently. And sometimes that starts with something as simple as having a hard conversation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for breathing and growing with us. I urge you to continue to find your voice and share your story. Welcome to the community, y'all.